Greetings everyone, my name is Etterville, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Make a Good Mega Man Level Contest 2, or MAGML 2 for short. During the last part, I completed the Tier 6 cyberspace, so I decided to visit Dr. Light and I got this message. And by the way, I've collected 60 energy elements so far. And there's something special you get for getting that many energy elements. Specifically, we have the occurrence of the WanNyan star. Remember that thing that the mysterious figure kept mentioning about coming into Earth's orbit? Yep, it's the WanNyan star, Mach 2 this time. By collecting 60 energy elements, we unlock access to the WanNyan star, aka the Wily Fortress of this stage. Well, we still have no idea who he or she or it is anyway. And I get the feeling because I didn't talk with Dr. Light earlier, we kind of skipped several conversations where Dr. Light would mention something coming closer and closer to Earth. So in essence, we need the energy elements in order to create a super spaceship in order to pierce the WanNyan star Mach 2's force field. And apparently the energy elements are semi-sentient or semi-sapient. Well, we had the energy elements in the previous game, but they weren't living. But do they have a living mind of their own in this game? Will they fuse into their own robot masters similar to like an energy element man? Or an energy element entity? Oh goody, all the 60 energy elements are coming out into one form. And they're fusing into this super spaceship. Well, thank you, mysterious figure. And this is a modified ride bike from, I believe, Waveman stage. Although we did have this spaceship back in Mega Man V or Mega Man 5 for the Game Boy. So in essence, after collecting 60 energy elements, we can go directly to WanNyan Star 2. But instead, I really want to complete all of the other levels up to Tier 10, then I'll come back here and enter this spaceship to the WanNyan Star. And as Dr. Light said, once we enter the WanNyan Star, we cannot return until we complete it in its entirety. And in that case, we'll complete the game. The main game, that is. Thankfully, it does save in between each level, so you can pause and return. And as Dr. Light mentioned, we would get more mentions of space debris if we kept coming back to him and talking. Thank you. But as I said, I'll be coming back to here later. There are several things I want to do first, like for example, complete Tier 7, 8, 9, and 10. We haven't got to the best levels of the contest yet. Far from it. But first, it's time to switch costumes because I already went through Tier 6 with the Rockman CX costume. Let's see, what would fit? We could go helmetless. You know what, let's go helmetless for this one. Might as well, for some more creativity. In the next part for the next set of levels, I'll go with the Metar. Then I'll go as Joe-Man. And if I recall correctly, the Tier 7 entrance is right to the right of Tier 6's entrance. Thank you for reminding us of that. Alas, it's time to enter Tier 7, which is McWily's. We saw advertisements of McWily's back in the Tier 4 subway station. I just wish there was more of these advertisements in other areas, like the arcade, or maybe even the sewers for some reason, or perhaps the underground forest. 10 energy elements and only 4 noble nickels. Apparently this tier doesn't have that many noble nickels for some reason. Usually what happens is as we go higher and higher in the tiers we get more and more noble nickels, but apparently not. Dr. Wily has established a restaurant chain here for some reason. I don't know why they weren't kicked out of this festival grounds. Oh well. So first up, in 34th place, is Biplane Bay by tobyjoey with a score of 30.4. And since the last part, we're going to be encountering above average levels, although they will still have their own flaws with their ideas and their execution, etc. And there will be certainly some flaws with this one. So only one energy element to worry about. We start on this biplane. I guess this is why it's called Biplane and Biplane Bay. So we have another water-based stage. We're introduced to these parachuting enemies. Oh neat, we also have these water spouts from before, although they're being better utilized here and introduced in a better fashion. You gotta be a bit careful here because those airplanes are solid both ways. And those water spouts can push us forward too. This really has a nice introduction of all these gimmicks, both the water spouts, these parasol enemies, as well as the airplanes. Not to mention this enemy, because if you stay on the left you cannot get damaged by it. You have some time to react to it. We have two ways of going through this, either with special weapons or without special weapons. So let's go down over here without special weapons. Oh goody, the musical track is a bit ear-piercing. Actually, this team is a remix of King K. Rool's Final Battle team from Donkey Kong Country. However, it's a fake bit remix of that final boss team using GXSCC. It's supposed to be able to remix MIDI tracks into 8-bit remixes, but it creates a fake bit one. It's not really 8-bit. And I know that that program has a rather controversial or negative reputation. Honestly, I don't mind if the musical track is fake bit or 8-bit or 16-bit. The only thing I care about is if it sounds right. But here it doesn't sound right, it sounds ear-piercing. If the musical track sounded fine with GXSCC, I wouldn't mind it being fake bit. But because it sounds ear-piercing, I don't like listening to it. And I don't mind some of the remix tracks with GXSCC. Some of them sound pretty nice, others not so much. This is one of the latter. Especially with some of the latter notes, which is quite a shame because the original 16-bit team is very nice to listen to. Now we're introduced to these flipping platforms, combined with these toss machines. Oh neat, this is a good usage of these water spouts, because we need to be quick on our feet in order to make our way across without falling into the spikes. Although I didn't need it because I already had an E-tank. Still, if I needed it, it would be nice to have. How do you switch this? Oh, we need to hit it from the bottom in order to switch it. Ah, I see, that's like a shortcut. Neat. I do like the graphical aesthetics about this stage, using a combination of, is this Centaur Man stage, as well as a few other things, and combining gimmicks in a nice fashion, although the musical track is the thing that mainly brings it down. Otherwise, if it had a better musical track that was less ear-piercing, I think this would be in the upper echelons of Tier 7. Because the gimmick and enemy introduction is very nice. It's gradually getting harder, and everything was introduced in a well enough fashion. Plus the graphics are pretty nice too. Although I wish there was something more done with all of these biplanes. Perhaps make them move around a little bit or blow you around a bit. Because the main gimmick of this stage are those flipping platforms, as well as those water spouts that push you around. Like, I wouldn't mind if there was more segments like this spike fall. Too bad it just ended with these 2 or 3 screens. I would have liked to see it taken further. And it's time to fight Toadman. Well, this boss fight is a little bit different with the water spouts in the middle of the room, though. But we still have the same old Toadman fight. so he's really easy to fight. Especially because he's not doing any attacks other than his... well, he did the rain flush over there. Honestly, I think the AI of Toadman should have been altered a bit to make the fight a bit more frantic, like make him jump around more, give him the ability to shoot at you some way. At the very least, there was those 2 water spouts at the middle of the room, but to make the fight more difficult, add water spouts, the horizontal ones on the left and right sides of the room. That way you have to be a bit more careful so you aren't propelled right into Toadman. And overall, this is an above average stage, at least a 30 for me. And the music is definitely atrocious, and that's the main thing that brought it down for being in the upper echelons of tier 7. Like I said, I don't mind 8-bit remixes from GXSCC or fake-bit remixes. The only thing I care about is if the musical track is fine. After all, I prefer 16-bit tracks more than 8-bit tracks. It's a 30 or 31, and honestly this stage would have been improved if it had 1 or 2 noble nickels. Like replace the E-tank up there with a noble nickel or something. And I think the gimmicks should have been taken further and give the biplanes more mileage other than just being a glorified platform type / aesthetic. Oh! A cameo from Mega Man Battle Network. Hello there, Sharkman. Fancy seeing you here. Too bad you're not a battleable robot master. In 33rd place is Blazeman by WanNyan with a score of 30.8. It seems that Guri didn't really like the stage, nor Jupy, although Jupy was around the same score as the other judges. Guri is outlier. Only 1 energy element. Honestly, all these stages would be improved if they had some noble nickels hidden or stashed away somewhere. After all, they promote you to check out our pathways. Oh, I remember this team. This musical track is Finette's Magma Factory team from Maho Warrior. At least that's where I first heard it. I thought there was a hole in the ladder there. But anyways, I love this team. It's one of my favorite magma-based Roadmaster teams. Even though the masters in Maho Warrior were mages. Okay, we're immediately introduced to the hotheads. And this is going to be definitely the lava stage. Let's see if it uses its lava aesthetic better than Lava Factory did, because that was more of a wine yard or wine cellar. I'm not gonna forget about these bolts. Although I'm overflowing in bolts right now, but I will need a lot of extra bolts for getting the remaining costumes that I haven't unlocked yet. Now we're getting introduced to the Fire Boys. We already got introduced to the hotheads. And now we have the shield attackers, as well as all these conveyor belts. This stage is already kind of reminding me of Conveyor Mayhem, my own stage. Because it too was a fire-based stage and it used conveyor belts as well. It even used the same lava tile set. Although the tiles for the solid ground are from a different stage. I think they're from Magma Man. And we have the crushers from Magma Man as well. Well, that's one way of introducing the crushers. Now, there is an unlockable by getting crushed by the crushers. That's why I deliberately killed myself over there. Sure, it voids me of the no death run, but I really want to get that extra costume. And I'll be showing that off in the next part. Nah, I'll show that off in Tier 8. Still, it was a nice introduction to Crushers to put in at that checkpoint room. You will be able to pay attention and see what they actually do, before getting thrown into the fray with the actual Crushers, or the actual danger of crushing. Well, that's actually a neat usage of all those conveyor belts. We're now getting introduced to those junk blocks that we need to destroy. Nice usage of foreshadowing. This stage is really utilizing all of the fire-type enemies in this engine that were provided in the base dev kit. Now we have a tougher combination of the Crushers and Fire Tellies. So great introduction of the main gimmicks of this stage, and then combining them in more difficult configurations. Plus, we have access to the flash stopper if we want to make this a bit easier on ourselves. I'm definitely liking this stage. It's a definite above average stage, at least a 30 out of 50 for me. I know I'm scoring a lot of stages in the same scoring range, but I have a hard time delineating them. I need to play through each stage at least 1 or 2 more times before I can give a finalized score. That way, for levels like in Tier 5 and Tier 6, I'll be able to split the scores more evenly. After all, even for the judges, we had decimal scores. And I probably should utilize decimal scores more often too. And the tile set is really befitting of this stage. It's a combination of Shadow Man's tile set combined with Magma Man's tile set. This is definitely a better fire stage than what Lava Factory was. A lot more difficult, but the gimmicks and enemies introduced are much better basically. It feels more like a fire-based level. And we have the Dr. Light symbol taken directly from Magma Man's stage. Are we gonna fight Magma Man? Nope. Anticlimax again. This stage would have really benefited from an end boss. At the very least, put a fire-based Roadmaster here, Fireman, Flame Man, etc., or even Magma Man. Or even put a Noble Nickel somewhere. It's a simple but effective stage, and I enjoyed it. If anything, this would be a 33 or 34 score for me. It really appealed to me. And Ace is right, if this is named after a Roadmaster and it has a boss quarter, I really think there should be a Roadmaster there. At the very least, reskin one of the Roadmasters with a Blazeman tile set, or a Blazeman Roadmaster. That way you don't need to recode most of the AI. It's a generic factory gimmick combined with the fire-based enemies. In a way, I did the same thing with my own stage, Conveyor Mayhem, with the factory gimmick / lava team. But in addition to that, I added the moving ladders as well as the sideways crushers. It's an absolutely solid level, an above average stage, and because I rated it 34, it's a almost good stage. But it would have really benefited from a custom Roadmaster fight near the end. Ah, the Wily combo. I too question why there's a Wily establishment here. After all, they could be funneling resources in order to build the next Wily Star or next Wily Fortress for the next game or fan game. In 32nd place is Gunpowder Cellar by Mysterion-svin with a score of 31.0. I'll call you Mysterion, sorry. Every one of the judges have relatively the same score outside of Angel for some reason. So far, I'm really liking all the stages. By this point, I can honestly state that I'm enjoying playing through all of the stages in this tier. Well, I could say the same thing for the latter half of the stages in the previous tier, but I can honestly say it over here. All these stages I would say are above average to almost good. This has a custom team and, oh goody, my earlier complaint has been fixed with this, with the overlapping blocks being placed over Mega Man depth-wise. I first stated that in a Mega Man for All Seasons. And just like the title suggests, we're delving into a cellar filled with gunpowder. And this has a custom musical track, as well as custom graphics, so 2 pluses automatically. And of course we have Subiels, or the mice, because mice usually live in cellars. Come on, I really want to see what's there. This is called Gunpowder Cellar, so all of these barrels are filled with explosive gunpowder. So if we shoot them, they'll explode. Oh, the screw bombers. At least the enemies are being introduced in a fair enough fashion. Hello there, Tellies. The area where the Tellies are spawning does fit the background aesthetics. Thank you for the warning sign. If you blow up the barrels, they can damage you with their own explosion, so be careful. And the only way you can blow them up is either with special weapons or the charge shot. You cannot use your buster only. Also, thanks for the warning for falling rocks. It's befitting to have the minecart enemies here as well. After all, rocks, falling rocks, minecarts. And we're introduced to the spikes here. Thankfully, there is a warning sign for every falling rock area, so that's really appreciated. Good usage of conveyance. Oh, apparently not all special weapons can blow up the barrels. And down deeper into the cellar caves we go. Let's go left for a change. Oops, that was an epic fail on my part. Well, the checkpoint was right over here. What I meant to do is jump onto this falling rock, and I repeat the same mistake as before because of the ceiling. I keep bonking my head against the right side of that low ceiling. But I recognize where that rock comes from. And because we delved so far, we now have lava droplets everywhere. These rocks slowly, gradually collapse as you stay on them. Apparently some of these barrels actually have goodies hidden in them. Like that one had a key. I guess taking the left route was important or necessary for unlocking a door later on. Maybe for getting that one noble nickel. Also, hi there, Isaac. Wait a minute, if Isaac is over there, are we going to be fighting horrific demons or horrific abominations as we go deeper and deeper into this cellar? I'm not sure. And I keep falling for the trap of all those falling rocks. Jumping onto the rock over here is a lot easier than jumping on it from the right side. I'm low on health, so it's time to use the grab buster. I've been really underutilizing the grab buster in this game. It can restore my health, but it doesn't really deal enough damage to most enemies, that's why I underutilize it. Not to mention I have so many E-tanks that I usually use them first. I will have to change my tune once I get to the latter Wily Star 2 stages, as well as in the post-game content, or I have a limited supply of all those E-tanks. If I didn't have as many E and M tanks, I would be utilizing the grab buster a lot more. Oh, that's why we needed the key. And I didn't mention this enough, the music of the stage really befits the stage aesthetic. It's a slow-paced, more creepy, atmospheric theme. After all, we're delving into a deep, dusty old cellar that's filled with gunpowder, and a lot of enemies. Not to mention all of the falling rocks and minecarts. Aha, there was something over here. And that's where the noble nickel actually is. I was suspicious of the ground here. Well, I have to access it from above. In terms of graphics and aesthetics alone, and well, graphics and music, this definitely outclasses Blazeman stage. Although I like Blazeman more for its gimmicks usage. Well, the conveyor belt crushers and a combination of all those fire enemies. I just like the factory stages as well as the fire stages in Mega Man games. But in terms of aesthetics alone, those being graphics and music, this definitely beats Blazeman. but this stage is definitely no slouch. It has pretty good stage progression, nice gimmick introduction, nice enemy introduction, and nice both stage progression and difficulty progression. Because we first started out in a saloon, then we entered the upper part of the cellar, then we went deep into the caves, and now we're back in this more brightly lit area. Because the lower part of the cellar was the darkest part, and that befits the stage. Also, we already saw this area before with the extra life. I would have used the Hornet Chaser there, but I got a extra life anyway, so there's that. I guess we're nearing the end of the stage. Let's hope there's a boss fight. I wonder if it's going to be custom or not. Oh goody, we have a custom boss, a matchstick. I guess it makes sense because this is an explosive cellar, so having a matchstick ignite everything and blow up the cellar would be quite dangerous. Yikes. Apparently it has shielding too. I'm gonna take a dead over here because this fight is a little bit more hectic than the rest of the stage actually. Honestly, I think this would better befit Blazeman's stage because that was faster paced, whereas this one is a more slower paced stage, so the boss fight doesn't exactly match the stage's pacing. Although that's just my opinion on pacing. So let's try finding the matchstick again and figure out when it's weak. When it finishes its jump, it's immune to my attacks. Oh, and it also switches when it does that attack too. I was thinking it was going to have the same rain of fire attack, but it does switch its position, or the fire waves switch their areas between each fire wave. They alternate, I think. There we go. I think I got his pattern down. This time, I didn't stand far enough. There we go, it does alternate. And that was the end of Gunpowder Cellar. Another above average to almost good stage. But honestly, I would give this a 32 out of 50. This is up there with Blazeman, as I said before, but the main thing that brings it down is more personal preferences. I just like the gimmicks of Blazeman's stage more than this one, as well as the pacing and enemy usage. This is still a very solid stage. And I also saw that small Isaac as well. Too bad we didn't see any horrible mutated abominations. Yes, that's what the words I was gonna say. Abandoned basement. And the boss did have a lot of periods of invulnerability, but once it got the pattern down, it was really predictable. It didn't have any random elements at all. Even the fire waves it fires do alternate where they fire down. This boss would be pretty simple to perfect run actually, once you get a hang of it. I would disagree with the inconsistent attacks complaint. They were relatively consistent, it's just the fact it was too fast for this stage type or stage pacing. Really? I never had this issue. And like Ace said, honestly this stage would have benefited from more noble nickels. And Ace is right, we did have the gunpowder or explosive barrels, but it really should have been taken further, like boosting the player, or blowing up walls, using it to attack enemies from afar. Like put a mini-boss there that forces you to use the gunpowder barrels in order to blow it up. The mini-boss encounter in the Crashman stage in Quint's Revenge did something similar with that. But as I said, overall I enjoyed it. Oh, Toastman. I think he was a Roadmaster in one Mega Man fan game that was cancelled, or is in development. I'm not sure. Oh yes, Pluto, the cat-based star droid. Who did they throw out? Well, I guess they're standing outside in the hub world, and I'll be able to see who it is once I get out of here. And Uranus would be a bit concerned too, because he is based off of a bull. Ah, and there's the Wally combo, a burger, fries, a shake, only for 5 zennies. Nice usage of zennies. Although, wouldn't that just be 5 cents, considering how cheaply gained zennies are in Mega Man Battle Network and Mega Man Legends? Oh, hello there, Napalm Man. You're right, you only have arm cannons. That can be a problem. At least Napalm Man did become a Roadmaster here, instead of being neglected in the previous game. Well, that's a creative usage of turning into a blob. Also, thank you for loaning us the Grab Buster, really appreciated. I'll take care of that in the next part. So, for the 4th and final level of this part, in 31st place is Cursor Curse by TheRetroDude with a score of 31.2. Well, that's a really different musical track. We have a Pointon trying to kill us by just deleting us. And by the way, that right-click menu keeps opening. That's the Game Maker 8.1 right-click menu, the one that we used to develop this game. Oh gosh, the musical track seems a bit off-putting for me. It's not as painful as Biplane Bay's was, but this still feels off-putting. Sorry, it feels a bit awful, and it feels like it has some obvious compression artifacts. And of course, Pointon steals the end of the stage. Oh neat, now Pointon is adding new elements to the stage to make it harder. Like in Mega Man Maker, but more active or in a live stage. Let's see how far it gets taken here. Okay then, thank you for building the... Never mind, it was to work against us, to trick us. So now we have all the gears. Time to fight Voltman and Pointon. What is Pointon gonna do? Oh, he's spawning all those tellies. Honestly, Pointon should probably be spawning some tougher enemies other than the tellies, because these will keep restocking my life energy and weapon energy, as well as drop bolts. That was a foolish strategy. I wonder if Pointon's gonna be the boss of the stage itself. Well, that was sudden. Now we're V. Whoa, how did I dodge that one? Okay, we have this segment now. I didn't expect this to be here. It feels completely out of place though. Dual satellite time. Whoops. Clever. I knew Pointon would have pulled a troll maneuver like that one. After all, it did steal that energy element to complete the stage in the first place. And I just realized that the sign actually told the truth over there. And the final one over there, the final jump, which you're not supposed to do, there was no jump sign. So if I followed the lack of instruction there, I wouldn't have died 2 times in a row. Now we have this boss, the one from Plantman stage I think? The mini-boss I mean. Is Pointon going to spawn a lot of different mini-bosses? I guess so now. Is it gonna spam every single mini-boss in one room overlaid on top of each other? If so, that would be really hilarious. Well, it's spawning every single mini-boss, it seems. I think I should be taking care of the whale first. Well, we took care of the whale and I'm almost dead again. The only thing that really improved this stage is actually adding a background and making the tiles a little bit more polished. It feels really unpolished to have a pure black background. At least put stars or something. I see what you're trying to do there, Pointon. You managed to freeze me in place. Please stop with your Mega Man Maker skills. They're rather poor and not trollish. I played a lot more tougher challenge levels from other players. You're an amateur trollish, Pointan. Alas, we're fighting Pointan. Good, we have a custom boss. Oh goody, these enemies. I remember these enemies being really useless back in the original stage. I think they were in Mega Man 5 or 6's or Mr. X Fortress stage or some Fortress stage. But here they're much more of an annoyance because we actually have to hit the boss. And of course the boss is spawning all sorts of enemies. But unlike before, these enemies will not spawn any pickups. At the very least, there is a custom boss fight over here. One of the main things that brought down Blaze Man's stage was the lack of a boss fight. At least the Gunpowder Cellar and Cursor Curse both have custom bosses, so really appreciate that. This rogue Pointon will keep spawning all sorts of different enemies, and you have to gotta be careful because they will not spawn any pickups. And it randomly goes everywhere across the room. Its movement pattern is really simple, but the main danger is of course all the enemies it spawns. Although the upgraded Buster really tears through all these enemies. If I didn't have the upgraded Buster, this fight would be notably more challenging. It's not too bad and it's a pretty creative boss fight. I wouldn't mind fighting a harder version of this boss fight where, when it's at half health, it'll start spawning mini-bosses in. That would be pretty fun to fight. Alas, that's the end of Cursor Curse. Although, personally speaking, I think the stage didn't execute that well on its main gimmick. It could have taken the point-on gimmick so much further, and actually had a background in several other parts of the stage. Plus the aesthetics weren't that good, and the musical track was rather painful and sounded rather compressed. Not as bad as Biplane Bay, but still bad. It started out good and adorable, then it just fell off a cliff or something. Honestly, I'm quite surprised that it somehow made it into Tier 7. It has some issues with its execution, and it really didn't fulfill its potential. And I'm surprised Jupi gave it such a high score, because it didn't fulfill its potential that much. Like for example the delete thing. It could have been taken so much further, like copy and paste, like edit creation code. There's so many other ways it could have been taken further, but it wasn't expanded upon. If I were to judge, this would be placed in upper tier 5 or lower tier 6. And I wouldn't have mind if the point-on did something more creative, like spawned in multiple bosses or dev kit bosses at once, like 3 or 4 at a time, but instead, because of a glitch, they all have one held or something. That would be quite hilarious and befit the stage. Or even try to delete the room, or Mega Man breaks out of the stage into the level editor. There's so many other ways this stage could be taken with this main idea with point-on or going super meta, but it failed to capitalize on it. It's another shame. And because of all those things that bring it down, I'm going to be a bit harsh here and... well, what are the judge scores? I'm going to rate it 25, the same as Pyro. It didn't execute well on its gimmick enough. It should have taken its idea further, but all those aforementioned things, as well as the aesthetics being bad, minimal graphics, bad music, bad looping. I cannot honestly give this a high score. It's an average stage true on true, and should have been placed in tier 5 personally speaking. Well then, honestly my favorite stage of this part is Blazeman, but I already talked enough of why I love Blazeman. So in the next part, I'll delve deeper into the McWily establishment. Well then, thanks for watching and have a nice day. Toodles!